All right. Welcome, guys, to another episode of Flip the Stock Market. This episode is called The Depth of SPX6900. So, what is SPX6900? SPX6900 is a movement. It's punk rock. It's rap before it became cool. It's electronic before it became cool. It's a band where everybody plays a different instrument and you get a symphony. It's a social circle. It's a mastermind. It's a therapy group. It's an art project. It's a blank canvas. It's a networking event. It's a social media incubator. It's a savings account. It's an investment. It's a crypto. It's a highly volatile store of value. It's a Gamblers Anonymous support group. It's something to believe in. It's a hobby. It's a side hustle. It's a business. It's a comedy show. It's internet land. It's a sport. It's an exercise accountability group. It's a forum. It's an idea. It's a protest. It's a new Netflix. It's a TV show. It's a podcast. It's a mind virus. It's love. It's faith. It's a million other things. And it's every expression of being human.
Wow. Incredible. Banger.
That was awesome.
So, I mean, someone else can go, but I've been thinking about this one concept is SPX as a therapy group. And I don't know how that sounds or what the perceived value of that may be, but I don't really care. Done studies on human longevity before, and tracked the number one indicator of life length is quality of relationships. So clearly there's immense value in having people to talk to. We have our families, we have our friends outside of this space, we have partners, but I found there are certain shared life experiences that other people haven't had, and that, you can only people within this community who share similar experiences can relate to. And the common diagnosis is to go get a therapist, but the problem with that is multifaceted. One is the experiences part, which I just touched on. There's several other reasons for that. And I've personally used it as an avenue, so I know there's value there. Also, I think we all feel a more significant sense of caring here. It's been spoken about at length how myself and others see SPX as having this magnetic repellent and attraction mechanism. And as crazy as that sounds, you can't argue against it, because when you look around at the community and you see the vast majority of people involved are genuine, caring people. They're not people who are getting paid to take on a client. They're genuinely interested in you as a person and your own unique circumstances. So my recommendation in order to get the most value from this community is to not only use it publicly, but to engage in private conversations with people. There's a lot of things that can't be said publicly. And I think that's how you take these relationships to the next level and have the opportunity to express yourself fully.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think to go off that tangent, the way I was thinking about this, the topic of depth in general for me, for SPX, was just starting to think from a personalized view for myself. How have I become Cal, I guess, in this third place for myself? And when I think about that, what you just described, this sort of almost group therapeutic safe haven, is one of the things that I've experienced. But for me personally, I try to list them out. SPX has been a source of hope, both symbolically, or I guess symbolically with regards to crypto markets, just because I believe in the concept of crypto and symbolically what it stands for. But obviously, we all know that there aren't a lot of ways to actually express that via investment and via time spent. And then obviously a source of hope financially. It's been a group of friends I can turn to as a third space. It's been a source of purpose. This us versus them general sort of thing that all makes us all feel alive and like a part of something that's very human. A means of connection. I've obviously met all of you. I've met many other people here who I would consider my friends, many of which I haven't even met, which is crazy. I never would have expected that for myself. Thankfully, Greenville will probably help take that to the next level to some degree, at least. And then counterculture, like like your amazing speech at the beginning of this, right? Feeling like you get to be a part of something different. Early house music, I think, is a great thing to allude to. All of those things for me personally have been therapeutic in a way, but I think we can all agree that there's a world that has problems that we all feel in different ways, and that depth helps us counteract that, regardless of whether all those things apply to you or not.
Yeah, I agree, Cal. One thing that I've been thinking about a lot, I mean, recently, but actually like over the last several years, is like, you guys probably have seen this article that went viral by this Matt Schumer, something big is coming. And I think like, that was like a mainstream wake up for a lot of people. But I think, a lot of people, particularly within SPX, have actually been thinking about some of these concepts for quite some time. I mean, this is, a big part of like Murad's thesis around how, AI is going to, create this era of abundance and displace jobs and all these things. And this is something even before I got into SPX that I started thinking about in probably like mid 2024, where I was like, what's the world going to look like in the era of AI abundance? Where are people going to find meaning? What's going to happen when people lose their jobs? And I think in the era of abundance, you need to be thinking about like what are the most scarce, what's going to be valuable, and what are the most scarce resources out there. And I think crypto is like this interesting counterbalancing mechanism for the abundance that comes out of AI, because there is crypto, or within crypto, you can have these constraints around creating assets that are scarce. However, what I'll say about that is like, you need to trace that to a deeper level, which is all crypto assets can be like cosmetically or artificially constrained to create scarcity, right? Like a token can launch and they could be like, okay, there's only 10 million of these things. But this is why you need to go deeper, because you need to be asking yourself, what actually is creating the scarcity value around these assets? Like if you create, you could just print some cryptocurrency and artificially constrain it. But if nobody cares, then nobody cares. And there's nothing of value or substance there. I think the thing that is interesting to me about SPX is that the scarcity is it's like the token is packaging a set of behaviors and principles and scarcity around a particular type of human, okay, a particular type of person, which is something that we value. And so what do we value? Loyalty, integrity, people who provide a safe haven in a world of abundance. Like these are the behaviors and characteristics of the people that are involved in SPX. And so it is the people and these behaviors and their ability to follow through on them that is actually the true scarce resource. And so I think like we're entering this era where the difference between one token and another is purely kind of cosmetic, because you can just print tokens out of thin air. However, when you get the right mix and group of people that have actually these like scarce and rare and valuable characteristics and traits that we want to like see in society, this is where a lot of the value comes from and accrues to. And so this is like a time, this is like a time and scale thing where as more people come into SPX who resemble and embody these values and follow through on them, that is the actual scarce resource that we're looking for.
Shoot, I was muted. But yeah, that was really well said, Matt. I think a quote in The Tipping Point, which was one of the books that you recommended. Um, was it was something like cool people like to join like other cool people, and like being caring it is cool. So I think that's like what we have going on in SPX, and why so many people are the way that Matt just described, and why the new people who join are attracted to that kind of person, and they tend to be that kind of person as well.
Yeah, I just think that type of person is so rare in this day and age, and you can look for it everywhere, and it's very hard to find, and it's very hard to find in a high density situation where you have like a large group of people trying to do something really, really ambitious that are all coalescing around a particular thing. And I think, especially like there's also this chart that's been floating around. It's like the uncertainty index. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's like spiked to some crazy level, higher than COVID, higher than 2008, all these things. Yep. And so I think there is tremendous amount of uncertainty and ambiguity in the world as we look out into the future. And something that I think is valuable, and I think this is valuable in the context of SPX, but I can also tie it back to, family or like a community. Life is uncertain. Life throws curveballs at you. And this is like one of the, great challenges of life. I think one of the most interesting things about something like family or your friends or your community is they provide this anchor point, this sense of stability, that no matter what is going on in your life, you have this sense of stability of people who embody your values and you care about, and no matter what happens, they're kind of going to be there for you as a staple and something reliable. And SPX is in a lot of ways like trying to do that within a financial markets context for people who want that in a world that is like highly uncertain and ambiguous. And so if we can stay the course and stay consistent and stay principled and keep the integrity, this is a resource and an asset and a community that people are going to find valuable as a source of stability in a world where you can't trust anything. You can't find stability anywhere. Like no one else can really, I haven't seen many other things that can deliver that at this scale and in this way at this point in time. And I think there's inherent value in that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Tim Grover speaks about in Relentless, like how these high performing athletes continue to like fight for their home life, and their relationships, because it gives them that sense of stability. When that other side of their life is like this constant competition and ambition, it's just like a place where you can kind of decompress. And I think SPX offers that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like for me personally, what's interesting and almost kind of weird is like, it's a dog eat dog world out there in financial markets. And so I don't like, when I look at any other asset out there, I don't trust the participants in those assets, the holders of those assets, and that they're actually like aligned with my values or trying to do something that is going to benefit me. But in this thing, it's different. There is trust. And like I've said before, we're building a trust machine. And there are people that like are trying to form together in a tribe to collectively engineer a good outcome for themselves. And I think that's just really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think to the point of like, I guess having a functional third place or a place where you can decompress, like you were saying, Tans. One of the beauties of this place for me, this place being the Cognisphere, is not only is it a place I can decompress and kind of be myself and all of these wonderful things, but I also feel like when your hormonal response to all of like the absurd things that are happening in the world is, to lash out or to immediately be reactive or, be rage baited or any of these other things, you now have like or at least for me, I now have a safe place where I can go and discuss these things, but it's not in the context of like anger or angst or It doesn't feed the negative emotions that I think a lot of publications and outlets and media like want you to feel when you see these things. And it's not to say that I like them or that they're good or that they shouldn't make you feel that way, but it's just nice to have a place where you can go that makes you feel sane, but has a legitimate response that isn't. And I'll get into something else that I feel is an extrapolation of this in a little bit, but you can have a legitimate response to that almost makes you feel like, okay, Unk actually was talking about this last night on a Spaces. It makes you feel like, okay, I feel mentally safer because at least I have, whether it ends up being a perfect response to this thing or not, I have this thing that's a functional reaction that feels pure and can counteract like all of these, day-to-day issues that I feel are completely unjust. And that alone is extremely valuable.
And it's such a rare combination too, to have like ambitious people who aren't cutthroat, at least with each other, because I'm sure you've seen like how success is, they track the characteristics of success, and like successful people have high disagreeability, and I think people in SPX have that to a large extent, but still they're within the community, they're not cutthroat with one another, which is just incredibly rare.
And so I posted something right before this started. I sent this to Cal a couple months ago, and it was really fascinating. It was an entire document, 152-page document made by DARPA, presented back in 2011, but really made in like 2008, about memes. And it was called like mimetic warfare, I believe. But I would suggest everyone go look through it. It is fascinating. But essentially, Richard Dawkins, right? He kind of coined the word meme back in 1976 in his book. And it really just talks about what a meme is. They go through incredible definitions and explanations, even looking at MRIs, how memes work on the brain. But throughout the entire document, they talk about propagation and persistence the whole time. And basically what they were saying is they knew that memes were going to be this like medium of information exchange moving forward, because the way they work on the brain and its ability to propagate information and propaganda, but really that it was going to be used moving forward to either create cultural trends, stop cultural trends. And the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, wow, so these guys knew that memes were going to be this big thing back then. And they knew they were going to use them to try to control society. And then here we are. We have this meme that goes against all of that. And it's like, what I don't think that they calculated for back then was that memes would become meme coins, and meme coins really were just going to be communities. And it is going to do the exact opposite of what they planned. And I feel like SPX6900 is that, right? It's a meme that unites the people against the system. Like it's everything they didn't want to happen. And it just made me so bullish when I was going through this. But really, I would recommend everyone flip through this because it's fascinating. Just the way they break it down and the definitions of memes, and they have charts on how it spreads, and it really is fascinating. But the whole time I'm just like, well, they didn't calculate in for SPX 6900. Like they missed this one. This one's not going to go like they thought.
Yeah, I think like the coins are just like a new modernized alignment mechanism.
Yeah.
Supercharges the power of memetics and mimetic warfare, so to speak. And I think I find this kind of interesting too, having thought about it quite a bit. Is like we're all consuming memes, like everything that organizes modern society is built off of some construct of like a meme. It's a shared meme at scale. Why do we do anything that we do in day-to-day life? It's kind of like these are like what people would typically maybe normally call like societal norms, but societal norms are really just like, propagated memes that are, shared about how people think, they want to live their day to day. And so I think what we're doing here is like, we're just more conscious and aware of choosing the memes that we want to follow and choosing the memes that represent our values. Whereas I think a lot of people go through life and they're living, in accordance with some meme that was propagated, propagated and like they accepted almost like unknowingly. Whereas like here, it's very conscious and people are doing it knowingly because they're tired of the system. They're tired of this, meme that you should be saving in dollars, for example, and then you go put money in your JP Morgan checking account and you're earning 0.01% interest year over year, and you're losing 10% of the value of your currency through debasement. Like that is a meme, right? That is a meme that was propagated by, the bank, let's say like the banking sector, and everyone bought it, right? And I think, people are starting, like, especially with Bitcoin in the post-Bitcoin era, people are just waking up to this idea that like, wow, they memed that onto us. And we're all kind of realizing and waking up to like, wow, this was like one gigantic lie where basically like some people were lining their pockets on the back of a bunch of hardworking people who were trying to put their dollars in a savings account. And this is kind of like one facet. Again, like SPX is there's a lot of depth to it, but I think this is one facet of why people are like, okay, we're flipping the 500, like we're flipping the system on its head. Like the system has not served a large number of people.
Yeah, I just to add to that, amazing points, Matt. I completely agree. Like, I think it's very hard to refute the idea at this point that like memes are a very functional and useful language, which is all that they really are at their core, right? It's just a means of communication, a means of expression. The 2010s, I think, indisputably proved, whether it was via, a presidential election or something like Bitcoin, or just the fact that now you can talk to anybody and they have, memes that they like to share to people, or they have soul relationships from Instagram where all they do is just send each other meme pages or meme accounts or whatever, right? It's very embedded in our culture. And I think there's a reason for that, right? It's a very clever way to express ideas back and forth to one another. But I think that SPX and generally like meme coins as a function, but SPX specifically kind of takes this to the next level because like you said, Matt, it's really an incentive mechanism. Like, yes, like the meme is great. The idea is great, but it's the combination of the coin, the memes, or the idea and the people, that really make all of this work together. If you substitute any one of those out, it starts to fall apart a little bit. And back when I really got into SPX around this time last year, even though I was in it for longer than that, I was just really getting into sort of the memetics behind it. I started to map out like all of the times that people tried to, protest the system over the last 15 years. Obviously, you had Occupy Wall Street, you had GME, you have Bitcoin, you could argue Dogecoin's in there. There were a lot of sort of different vehicles that people tried to use. The underlying sentiment was very similar, but because you didn't have, the right incentive alignment, the right people, and or the right I'm forgetting the last thing that I said, the right idea, it just didn't work, right? And so this is really the next evolution of what that can do together. And to your point earlier, Tans, like having that like really tenacious, really successful, really driven person is typically not an archetype that is also kind, is also kind of spiritual, is also welcoming, is also sort of self-sacrificial in a way. And that combination, I've seen so much rhetoric recently around, oh, Murad's right, but the coin is wrong. People are just completely misunderestimating how difficult it is to have a vehicle that is as powerful memetically to get those people all in the right room for the right cause.
And this is where the scarcity comes from.
Yep. Exactly.
Right? It's the people.
Yeah, and there's a lot of speculation, that the memes spread on 4chan like in 2016 are like why Trump got elected, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. And people like to discount memes, but then they at the same time they think that propaganda is real, and you're taught early on in school, at least I was taught a lot about propaganda, whether it be communist propaganda, whatever it may be. But you're taught about the impact of that kind of propaganda, and instead of like being subjected to it, we have the opportunity to kind of spread our own type of propaganda here.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. That to me, that's the biggest. I hope you guys look through that document. It really blew my mind. But the whole time I just kept thinking. So the first meme that they talk about in this document is that the one with like Uncle Sam, like he's got the hat on and he's pointing. It was for like to get like recruitment, like military recruitment. But really, what monetized social networks, I think, is the best way to explain it, because it never happened like this before, right? You could have groups of people that believed in the same thing, but the monetization is the first part that was kind of missing this whole time, right? Like actual monetization where it's liquid, it's easy, it's like a regular retail person could have access to it. But then like the social network part is where I think this is so much bigger than all of the other ones, in the sense of Occupy Wall Street. They were able to fester that out because, one, it was just in America for some reason. I feel like Occupy Wall Street didn't really go to Europe, right? It was mainly just in America. But they were able to fizzle that one out so fast by like having agent provocateurs go down there on Wall Street and just cause a little ruckus, have the police come and shut it down. But fast forward to today, everything is so much easier to spread on the internet and global now, where it is going to be way more difficult to stop this. Like, this ball is rolling. These ideas have been festering since 2008. And I really think everything that's going on now with all the Epstein files and stuff, I think this is just like more gas on the fire. Like, wow, like not only are these, like these are actually like demonic people. Like we need to string together as like from a spiritual standpoint, like as human beings that have a soul. Like the time is now. And I just feel like everything points back to this movement, this like purity movement. Like, we're not here to take everyone else's money. That's not what this is about. This is about building something together, like building a parallel system, right? Everyone talks about like burn it down. Well, you can't burn it down unless you have something to put in place, right? Like that's the whole thing. So like, I feel like that's what we're doing here. Like, you build a parallel system so that you can seamlessly just move out of this broken system. And like, I really do see this down the line, because I don't look at this for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Like, I'm looking 5-10 years down the line. Like, we could build communities, like actual communities based on SPX, where like you have land, you have teachers, you have nurses, you have you have all these people, and like you just build a parallel system. I don't think that that's so crazy to say that. I just really don't.
They were actually talking about that on Spaces last night. Nick and Unk and a few more people, Tom Bout, a few other people. They were talking about, they were like, if everybody had one Aeon, and they which I don't think is the right framing necessarily, but they're like, if everyone sold one Aeon, for like $1,500, I found a ranch for us. you could attend it, like we need like 1,500 Aeons or something to basically come together with like $1,500, $2,000 or something, and we could have this communal ranch. I agree. I don't think that's that far off. And I think there are a lot more people out there who are starting to wake up to the fact that, like, I think yesterday, the screaming match about the Dow being at 50,000 is a great example. I think there are a lot of people who are waking up who are like, you know what, my 15 grand in the Dow, I don't care if it drops 10%. If whatever this is that's being used to cover up the Epstein files and all these other things is suffers, right? Because this is clearly the priority.
A little tangent is, I just had someone who reached out to me in the DMs and essentially like asked what I thought about the future of SPX, and and if I think it can persist. And one of the things that I said is that I think SPX is in this completely blue ocean inside of the crypto market. It serves like this key demographic that's already here in the crypto market, and it's also outside of the crypto market. And this demographic is like constantly expanding. And you know, when they do come into crypto, I think they're going to look at like everything that's there, and they're going to resonate with SPX the most. And you know, there's no like in their current like crypto complexes and even the future crypto complexes, because of the fact that like everything that launches is you know, it's for the most part it's centralized, and you know, it takes the kind of organic kind of roller coaster ride that SPX has been on in order to develop like this kind of you know, truly decentralized culture. So yeah, I kind of went off on a loop there, but yeah, I think like SPX is in this special place where there's literally nothing out there that competes with it, and it's super difficult to build something like that because it has to happen organically.
You can't manufacture it. It's not possible.
No, I mean, I go back to that supply squeeze composite, you know, chart that I shared. I had been thinking about building something like this for quite some time because I said, okay, like people say they believe, but how do you objectively measure the depth of belief? And that's exactly how you measure it. You measure it by how long do people hold this thing? And do they continue to stick around? And do they continue to buy it and suck supply out of the market? And this is how you can objectively measure the depth of belief. And I see it deeper here than I see it anywhere else. And I know people are going to want stability in the age of abundance. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are not even aware of SPX yet, who will want to participate. And I know there's also a lot of people in crypto who are not discerning the difference between SPX and everything else because they're not looking under the hood at that level to see the differences. They're just cosmetically looking at the surface and saying, oh, this is a coin with like an idea, but they're not measuring or looking at the depth of the idea and the dynamism of the idea. And this is, I mean, there's a point where you cross that, you know, threshold, and it's so decentralized and it's so distributed, and it means something so deep that is so multifaceted to so many different people that it's not going away. And I think, you know, that's where we are, and we're working through excuse me, through a period that is similar to, you know, Bitcoin in its first couple of years, where it's not entirely clear to everyone yet what's happening under the hood. But I think this as people continue to go down this path and they commit to the path and they persist forever, this becomes more clear to everyone in due time. And so, you know, we keep going. Because what else? Where else are you going to go? What else is there? Honestly, you know, it's like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to chop yourself up trading. You're going to buy, you know, all these overinflated assets at the top. Where are you going to go?
There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to hide. It's true. Yeah. And I think people, I love your point, Tans, about like I guess the flaws of the crypto market, because obviously there's a large subset of people that don't like crypto, and feel that crypto is to blame for, you know, because it sort of represents this general nihilism and this general sort of like very, I guess, scam adjacent culture that the world has been moving toward. But the reality is, like, number one, it was always going to be infinite tokens, right? The very same the same playbook, the scammy nature that occurs in the wrong meme coins, the majority of meme coins, the launched meme coins, bundled ones, what have you, the insider games, those all occurred in utility coins. Those all occurred in you know, the ICO era, like they occurred in every era, and they occurred in the .com boom, and they occurred in the SaaS era, and they occur right now in the AI era. Like this is just the fundamental incentives of overfunding in a promising field, right? What you have to do is figure out what vehicle actually delivers on the promise that initially got people excited about that like general category, and then be a part of it. And I think I agree with you, Matt. Like it's becoming clearer by the day. Even people who work in crypto, who live and breathe crypto, I mean, there's 30 million tokens, right? Like you can't even pretend to understand what's happening anymore. And that we're now seeing the demand collapse of that stuff. Whereas in the past, a lot of tokens could artificially try to constrain supply and whatnot, or even naturally, but that was because there weren't that many sirens. There weren't that many things, pulling people away from that. And now there's infinite. And so that test becomes much harder, but anything that survives it becomes much, much stronger than anything that we've seen in the past.
I like to think about SPX as it's an anti-crypto coin, and there's a lot there's a lot more people who aren't involved in crypto or just don't like it than there is people who are involved in crypto. So I think when those kind of people inevitably like have some interaction, I think they'll be most attracted to SPX.
I agree. Do you guys want to? I know Monj has to go take care of something. Do you guys want to play a game, real quick?
Sure,
let's do it.
Cool. Well, just as a little context, I put this together because I like making graphics, and it's just like a way I think. And I was trying to think about what the depth of SPX meant to me, and how I thought about that, right? And I think we've talked a lot about the subsets of SPX. I'm going to share my screen here, and how there are a lot of different sort of subcultures that exist within SPX. So I tried to categorize that to some degree. I guess this is probably partially inspired by Murad's archetype video, also by just all the people in the community that I think fall into different areas here, and also just trying to list out all the ways that SPX has kind of helped me individually. And so I think this is the perfect embodiment of what, depth in SPX looks like, right? I tried to simplify this into sort of 4 main quadrants and generalized archetypes, but certainly it goes beyond that. I just thought this was probably the simplest way to do this. So what I did here is draw obviously a y-axis and an x-axis that has chaos and order, because I think those are very fundamental, but still nebulous enough ideas that it categorizes a very wide net of both future and current participants in SPX, and then agency and passivity. So you have your more proactive people on top, and you have your more sort of like spectator types on the bottom. And so, you have someone who's high agency and high in chaos. They're sort of a revolutionary type, right? They want to claim the system is broken. They want to tear it down because they think it doesn't work, but I want to do something about it. You have the architect. The architect is maybe a little less action forward, a little bit more of, the think before you act type. There's pros and cons to both, obviously, but they probably are going to be more logic-based and less sort of emotion-based. None of these are good or bad or wrong or right for what it's worth. And then at the bottom, you have someone who's high in order and high in passivity, sort of a monk type, right? Someone who, which is ironic because it sounds close to Hmong, and I would not put Hmong in that category. But, that is a group that believes that the world's kind of circular, right? And it repeats itself. And so, we can just sort of watch and expect the change to occur, but we still want to participate as a viewer, right? And then you have the doomer, right? Everything is over. What's the escape valve? How do I get out of it? And so I think there aren't many people probably in that bottom left-hand quadrant for SPX, but I still think that there is appeal in all of these areas. And so I thought it might just be interesting to see, I guess, A, if you guys agree with these categorizations, and B, where you would put yourselves within these quadrants. And I can start, but I guess let's start with the first question.
Yeah, I like this framing a lot. I like it a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, this is amazing. I think you just like significantly improved the quality of our show. So it's for sure.
This is really all I can do. I can put together something that it's not even pretty. It's just simple. But I'm glad. I think it, in practice though, it's still kind of hard to put yourself in one category. Like I was thinking through this earlier, maybe I want to be a revolutionary. I don't know if I am. Maybe I want to be a monk. I don't know if I am. I think probably there are different times I'm different things, which is, I guess, the beauty of a spectrum. But I would probably put myself like somewhere maybe in between these two. Call it like right here, probably up higher though. I would say my most like pervasive trait is agency. And then while I want to be closer to the order, I don't think I'm quite there. And while I also want to be closer to the chaos, I don't think I'm quite there. So that's where I'd put myself.
It's looking at this right now. It's interesting for me because I see myself rotating clockwise around this graphic. So where did it start for me? It started for me in the doomer phase, where I'm like, everything is cooked. How do I escape? Right? This is totally passive. It's just like, oh, everything's done. Like, what do I do about it? And then I sort of rotated up over time to the revolutionary. Like, the system is broken. Let's tear it down. Which is like, let's say, like, I would say like Bitcoin is in that camp, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Like Bitcoin is like, the system is broken. Let's tear it down. But then like, even as an early Bitcoiner, I'm like, well, I can't really move the needle on Bitcoin. Bitcoin, $2 trillion. And by the way, Bitcoin serves an entirely different group of people and constituents and use cases and needs at a $2 trillion valuation than it did when it was a $10 billion asset. So I was kind of in this like revolutionary camp, and I'm like, okay, but like, I kind of want to have control over my outcomes and at least play games where I'm not like a passive participant and you can do something that's impactful, but you can, have an impact. So that kind of like rotates into the architect, where it's like, okay, now I started in like, the world's fucked. What do I do about it? To the system is broken, tear it down. I found something that I can participate in. To, all right, let's actually like, have a hand in this and try to make some shit happen with the right group of people. And then I think like taking this full circle, like I think this goes back to like the spiritual component of SPX. Like the spiritual component of SPX for me is like, I think it's an opportunity to try to be the best sort of version of myself as I can and be authentic and believe in something and fight for something I believe in and do it in the face of people who might not understand or criticize or what have you. So that's like a personal growth thing. And I think like the ultimate aspiration is to get into the monk camp, where it's just like you're not even connected to the outcome, but you're doing this because it feels like the right thing that you should be doing.
Yep.
And I think that's like how you should be living your life. So I kind of like am trying to complete the circle.
Yeah, I like that framing a lot. I think, it's very relatable. I think that a lot of people start like you kind of go through this almost clockwise motion, regardless of where you start. Certainly everybody feels all these phases to some extent, but you probably touch all of them. Especially when you start at Doomer, because I can relate to that to some extent, because eventually you look at it, you go, I want to do something, right? And then you could argue that a lot of people who are early Bitcoin or something end up down here in the monk category, right? Because eventually, like you said, you can't necessarily move the needle individually in the way that you could at one point, and then potentially the cycle repeats itself. So food for thought. So where should I drop you then? Do you go in the middle?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm probably more towards the right side in the middle than
I would agree.
But yeah, I mean, this also goes back, like there's a bit of like a detaching from the outcome thing here for me.
Yeah.
With aspect to like navigating into the monk state, which is like, I wake up every day and I want to fight for this thing. I believe it's important. I'm having fun doing it. I love the people. I think it would be good for society to prove that we can sort of reinvent the Bitcoin wheel when society needs it. And like that all feels, good to me.
Mhm.
And then as I go through this whole process of now having been in SPX for like, let's say a year now, it has changed my habits and it has changed like my life in a lot of ways. I've run more in the first 45 days of this year doing the 500 running challenge with a bunch of friends online than I did all of last year. I'm making like genuine connections with people where I feel like we're trying to do something really, really difficult, but that would be good for the world. And that is like deeply fulfilling to me. It's detached from the monetary piece. And I think if you really immerse yourself in this, the journey will improve your life. Like the journey can improve the type of person that you are. And then once you realize and appreciate the value in that helps you gravitate more towards like this monk-like place where, oh, you know what? Even independent of the financial aspect of this, like this is making my life better. And this is like making me, enjoy life more. And that's a good thing.
Matt, I think you're like shockingly spot on how you frame this as circular, because for anyone who's self-made, I think it's like the circle of life, right? You start out kind of as the doomer, and then, you move to the revolutionary, and I think a lot of people who aren't ambitious, they just end up staying like in the doomer kind of revolutionary zone. And then the people who are ambitious, they move over to like the architect side. And then, as we age, at old age, like you lose your agency. So, you just have to become the monk, and you have to be accepting of the fact that the world always resets itself.
Yeah, I think it's super well said. And I think to both of your points, it proves the depth of SPX that within SPX, we've felt all of these things, all of us, right? I think there are probably a fair amount of coins that appeal to one of these quadrants. And that's not to say that they don't have a place. But the more depth, the more angles that you have, the higher the likelihood of, the persistence forever, right? Because, all of a sudden you can capture anyone at any point in their life, and they fit well into the mold and they can participate. So I feel the same way, Matt, for what it's worth. Like I personally feel that I've experienced all of these to some extent, and my life is meaningfully different in the way that I treat myself. I'm much, not that I was ever unhealthy or anything, but I think the order of magnitude of importance of the mission, what's required to be a part of it, both in the inputs and the passive portions of it, have forced me to become a healthier, kinder person that really tries to embody some of these principles, like peaceful life over greed. So I really like the circular idea. Tans, where did I label you correctly there? I didn't want to steal your time.
I think I'm a little higher up towards the architect. And
yeah, to be honest, I think I am too. Like the monk is like aspirational.
Right. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, agency. We'll have to, let me stretch this out here.
Because once you reach,
there we go.
If you can get into the monk camp, the benefits that this has on your life more broadly, because you're going to have ups and downs, you're going to have challenges. If you can get into that place, like this is amazing. It's going to drastically improve the quality of your life. Yeah. So I think that, there's a journey here that I've become more appreciative of. If you looked at me when I went through my first like 80 or 90% Bitcoin drawdown, like I was a mess, you know? And so this, you know, now I do appreciate that this is all part of the process.
Yeah. Well said. And for everyone watching, I'm gonna export this just raw file in the middle, and anybody can, you know, you could play at home, I guess, if you will. Maybe we could try to fit everybody on here, or a lot of people on here. I think that could be kind of interesting. But I just thought it was a fun, like, interactive thing that we could try. So appreciate you guys trying to box yourselves in, even though it's kind of hard to do.
No, this was excellent, Cal. Appreciate you bringing that.
Of course.
I'd like to see more visuals and more.
Here's the other thing I think about, because we've talked about this in the past. It's like, you know, you want to get the outcome, you got to go the distance, and you got to like fight to get the outcome. And I do think, and this is where the personal development directly and going through that clockwise motion directly connects to the mission. I wake up and I think to myself, you know, I got to go for a run, or I got to get my mind right, or do all these things, because I know that the more people we have graduating around that clock and getting into the monk place, let's say, or the architect place, the higher the likelihood that we're going to be successful in the mission is. So every day I wake up and I say, I have a role to try to work on improving myself and my ability to get there, because that is like the best thing I can do. It's symbiotic. It's the best thing I can do for myself, and it's the best thing that I can do for SPX. Because once you're in the monk phase, it's not about money anymore. It's like purely about mission. It's purely about standing up for your beliefs, and you're there. You're like a permanent node in the network. And so the more people we can have graduate around this clock, the better it's going to be for people as individuals, and the better it's also going to be for SPX. And everyone has like their own individual control over themselves in terms of like going through that process.
100%. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a good place to end it here. What do you guys think?
I think so. I hopefully we can do more of these like kind of interactive things. We could even try to work in the audience a bit. I think it's a fun mix up for us. So I'll try to think of more ways to do that.
I was laughing at the comment. Persist only until you become mildly uncomfortable.
Official's been cracking jokes over here.
Oh man, that's funny.
I like it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you in the next episode.